If you're struggling with panic attacks, I'm sure you want to know one thing. How do we make this stop right now? I totally get it. I struggled with panic disorder, agoraphobia, and panic attacks for 15 years. And I have had thousands of panic attacks. And every single one, that instant thought that popped into my head was, how can I make this stop right now? At one point in my journey, I would have multiple panic attacks a day, and I had a few really severe ones that were so terrifying. I mean, I think they were all terrifying, but when you experience the really intense ones, it can really rock your world. So the ironic thing that I learned in my anxiety recovery journey was that the more you try to stop panic attacks and avoid having them and make them not happen, the more they happen. So in this video, I want to share with you what actually helped me to work through panic attacks successfully and how I got to the place where I no longer experience panic attacks at all, which even to this day sounds crazy saying out loud. I have had one panic attack in the 8, almost 9 years I've been recovered. And that sounds crazy to me because I used to experience them daily and I thought that I always would. So let's dive in, and I want to talk to you about what actually helps you get relief from panic attacks. So let me first just say this. Panic attacks suck. Like, they absolutely suck. They can be really scary. They can make you feel a whole lot of sensations and symptoms that are incredibly uncomfortable. And just physiologically, like, it feels terrible and it drains you of everything. They were undoubtedly the hardest part of my struggle with anxiety, panic, and agoraphobia. I always say the panic attacks were the hardest, along with just the mental battle every day of carrying so much fear and anxiety. Panic attacks truly made me feel like I didn't have control over my mind, over my body, and they just made me feel so incredibly scared. Like, if you've experienced panic attacks for any amount of time, I'm sure you kind of know when you get particular sensations, symptoms, you know that a panic attack is likely coming. And for me, it could start with so many things. Usually it started with the thought of like, what if I have a panic attack, especially when I was driving or in other places where I felt stuck or trapped. But it also could start with a sensation or symptom. And for me, anxiety often showed up in my stomach. And so if I felt a sensation or symptom in my stomach, I would pretty immediately spiral. Also, another pretty good indication for me that I was about to panic was feeling like this tingly sensation, warm sensation, and then I would get like the rush throughout my entire body. And I knew, oh my gosh, I'm going there. Like, there's no kind of stopping this. But I tried everything to make them stop. I'm talking everything in the moment to make the panic stop, but also outside of the moments where I was actively panicking, I would try anything to make myself not have a panic attack. So in the moment when I was panicking, I would do it all. I would do the breathing techniques, the grounding practices. I would try to distract myself. If I was in the car, I would roll my windows down or I would blast the AC. I would literally pinch myself. I would hit myself. This was like, when I was struggling, it was long before all the advice now of like, do this, try this trick, try this hack. And I'm kind of thankful for that because I already did enough that was so incredibly unhelpful. But in the moment, I would just try to pull on anything that I could remember that I was told might give me some relief from panic. And the really hard, torturous part was that when I wasn't experiencing panic attacks and trying to make them stop, I was trying to prevent myself from having one, which you probably know your entire world revolves around, how can I make myself not feel anxious? How can I make myself not have a panic attack? And I would literally do all the things. So outside of the moments I was actively panicking, I would do anything to avoid having a panic attack. I would try my best to control things, like I will only go to this certain place or only go this certain distance or only go if I feel good enough. Like, I would only do things under certain conditions. And also, I would often avoid, like, I'm just not going to go. I'm not going to do the thing because then at least I know I won't have a panic attack. And if you've been there, you know how hard that is because there's so much that you do want to go and do, but you truly are just so scared to have a panic attack. And my life completely revolved around trying to make myself feel calm and not panic. So the realization that changed a lot for me and was so helpful was recognizing that the more I tried to stop panicking, the more I was fueling the panic. Like truly, the more anxiety I was experiencing if I was trying to prevent myself from feeling it. If you're constantly trying to stop yourself from panicking, unfortunately what you're doing is telling your brain this thing that we're experiencing is really big, it's really scary, it's really dangerous, and you can't feel it, you can't handle it. And so unfortunately your brain gets really latched onto this and it truly thinks, we can't experience this, we can't feel this, this is big, bad, scary, and dangerous. And so unfortunately it keeps throwing you even more anxiety. And there's no shame here. It is so easy to get stuck in this cycle, and it makes so much sense. You're human and you're struggling with something that's really hard. And of course, you're trying to do anything to make it go away. Like, of course you want panic to stop, right? Nobody wants to have a panic attack. Nobody is like, yeah, sign me up for that. That sounds like a great idea. No, of course not. But recovery isn't about forcing panic and anxiety to go away. It's really about learning how to support yourself through it without doing so much fighting and resisting. You know, something I often hear from my students is, well, Shannon, when I have a panic attack, everything goes out the window. Like I forget everything. I don't even know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, of course, because that logical side of your brain literally turns off and you're just in fight or flight. So of course you can't remember what to do. But here's the thing. Doing less is so incredibly helpful. So when students say this to me, I'm like, good, I'm glad you can't remember what to do, because less doing is actually going to be incredibly helpful. Because the more you're trying to breathe your way out of the anxiety and panic, you're trying to ground yourself, you're trying to force the calm, the more it's going to continue to send those signals to your brain. What's happening is dangerous, and we need to keep firing the alarms, which is exactly what we don't want, right? So let's dive in and talk about 4 things that actually help you to work through panic rather than trying to force yourself to feel calm and to not experience the panic. Okay, the first one, and it might seem really simple, but it's really powerful. You've got to acknowledge what's happening. Because what we typically do when we're experiencing panic is we automatically jump to this place of resistance. Like we want to push it away, pretend it's not happening, and just avoid, avoid, avoid. But the more we do this, the more we reinforce the anxiety. So we've just got to call it out and say, okay, we're feeling really anxious right now. Like this sucks, we don't like this. Put some validation in there, right? Validation is so incredibly helpful. Like, this sucks, this is really uncomfortable, but it's just anxiety. We're feeling anxious, right? And it's okay that we're feeling anxious. Acknowledgement in itself will give you so much relief. Maybe not immediately, like right in the moment, that relief that you really, really want, but over time, it gives you so much relief. So acknowledgement, so powerful. So the next one that's super helpful is healthy self-talk. Because the thing is, many of us go to that place of beating ourselves up, right? Making ourselves feel bad for feeling anxious and panicky. And we tell ourselves, we shouldn't be feeling this. This is so silly. This is so ridiculous. Like, I'm just standing in line at the grocery store. I shouldn't be panicking right now. Well, that's not really helpful, right? That self-talk is just going to make you feel bad and likely cause even more anxiety. So shifting from that to, it's okay that we're panicking. It's okay that we feel anxious right now. And how can we support ourselves through this? And oftentimes it looks like saying things to yourself like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling, right? But I am safe. I can feel this way and still be safe. It also looks like saying things to yourself like, I'll work through this just like I always have. I can handle this. I'm going to be okay. And I know you might not believe these things that you're telling yourself, and that's okay. You don't need to believe them. You don't need to try to force yourself to believe them. But saying these things to yourself is going to be so much more helpful than beating yourself up for feeling anxious. Okay, the next one is to ask for help. So many of us, when we're feeling anxious and panicky, right, we don't want others to see it. We don't want that added layer of embarrassment or shame or to be judged. And so we just internalize it. And internalizing the anxiety and panic is so torturous. It feels so uncomfortable. I know I think back to my journey of how many times I did this. And I'm like, why did I hide it? Like, why did I just not ask for help and support in the moment? So if you're feeling really anxious and you're panicking, it's okay to say, hey, like, I need some support right now. Can you just sit with me? Can you listen to me? Can you give me a hug? Can you give me some space? But it's really nice to have you here. Like, asking for that support in the moment and allowing yourself to be seen with the anxiety is so incredibly helpful. And I know it can be really hard to be vulnerable and ask for help and let people see you feeling anxious, but I promise it's going to be so much more helpful than internalizing it and trying to just force your way through feeling it by yourself. Okay, number 4, the last one, and it's so helpful to practice this. You gotta let yourself panic and let it look however it looks. Nobody works through a panic attack and it looks like glorious, right? Rainbows, butterflies, no. Like, you've got to let the panic attack look however it looks and really have that compassion for yourself. It's okay if things kind of go off the rails. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if you get upset. It's okay if you're shaking and it's very visible. Like, you really got to let it look however it looks and follow it up with that self-compassion of, you know what, that looked really awful. That was so uncomfortable. And maybe I could have worked through it a little bit better, but you know what, it's okay. I worked through it and I'm really proud of myself for working through that. You know, I think an added layer that's so hard is that when we do have a panic attack or a really anxious moment, we can kind of quickly jump into that mind frame of, this means I just took so many steps backwards. This means I failed. This means I let anxiety win. This is a setback. But it's like, no, no, no. You've got to let yourself have these moments. They're honestly just a part of the process. They're a part of struggling with an anxiety disorder and working really hard to heal. And it's okay if you have a panic attack. I always tell my students, it's really not a bad sign. I know we interpret it that way, but it's often a good sign that you're allowing yourself to live and go toward the things that are important to you and do this healing work while letting yourself feel. And that's really beautiful and powerful. Okay, so the big shift that I want you to take away from this is, instead of asking yourself, how can I make this stop? Start asking yourself, how can I support myself through this feeling? Supporting yourself through the feeling is what actually helps to calm panic, and it's what helps it to stop showing up so much. So if you're really struggling with panic attacks right now, I just want you to hear me. I know how much it sucks. I know how much you want to make them stop. I know that you don't want to have another panic attack a day in your life, and I totally get that. But you've really got to pull back on trying to force yourself to feel calm and to pull back on trying to make yourself not panic and give anxiety a little bit more space. And when you give anxiety a little bit more space, I think you'll be really surprised by how you feel. So I have to include here, if you're really wanting to dig in and do the work, I have an entire mini course on overcoming panic attacks. And in it, I share with you all the practical stuff and the mindset shifts that are gonna help you to actually experience less panic. A big thing that we focus on is changing your relationship with your thoughts and your feelings, the relationship that you have to those sensations and symptoms and just anxiety in general. And when you do this work, it really allows yourself to experience the calm that you're wanting without having to force it. Okay, until next time, keep taking healthy action.